Prison show is what I know. They bring in all these boys and girls all around the whole wide world. Prison show is what I know, but here we go. Yeah, whoa. Prison show is what I know. They took me from my home. I can't get back to my family. I wanna hold just to get it back. I can't do this no more. It's the Imprisoned Prison Show.
Hello viewers at home, as you can see we have a new set. This set was designed by the students at the University of Minnesota and their professor from the College of Design, Professor Abimbola Asojo, and our second year lighting students designed this for us. So as you can see, today we are having the Imprisoned show, sale and fundraiser to create more awareness about the human trafficking issues, and we have an important person here with us, and is Commander Brian from Anoka County Sheriff's Office. So you'll be hearing more from him what the county has been doing on human trafficking in Minnesota. Thank you. Hello, officer. Thank you for coming today. God
My
bless
pleasure.
you. We really appreciate your coming here today. So, how long has the Anoka County Sheriff working on the issue of human trafficking?
Well, we've started to more formalize a task force, the Human Trafficking Task Force, county-wide, really this year. We saw the need for it a couple of years ago. One thing, we don't have the funding to create a new task force, so what we've been doing is we've kind of created...
It's always the big issue.
Yeah, it is. Because we've really, our detectives in our criminal investigations division have actually been working trafficking cases in one form or another for about 12 years. And we really started to see more of a demand and didn't have the resources where we could just dedicate personnel to trafficking. So we've combined our efforts at the Sheriff's Office on behalf of Sheriff James Stewart with other Anoka County law enforcement agencies. And we've also joined with other metro area law enforcement, including the St. Paul Police Department, the Minneapolis Police Department, and other federal organizations, to start working more human trafficking cases. The formal aspect of it has really ramped up in the last year. So we've been working the cases for the past about 10 to 12 years. But we're trying to create more of an organized structure to be more aggressive in combating the problem.
Okay, since you've been working on it in the past 10 years, and this human trafficking issue has been growing, especially in Minnesota, would you say funding is one of the problems you have that couldn't make you be aggressive to kind of clamp this down?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had, see, Minnesota, the Twin Cities metropolitan area is 13th in the country as far as problems with human trafficking goes. And I think that trafficking has been here longer than we realize. It's been a problem for a while, but it's starting to come more to the forefront now, which is good because it makes people aware of it, and it also it helps us, as more people become aware of it, we can do more from an enforcement standpoint because we actually get more referrals as well and more reports of things that I think a lot of times were more hidden that society wasn't aware of. So things like the Imprisoned show, to make the public more aware of this problem, are a good thing. And from our standpoint, we have to reallocate resources to combat the problem. But this is something we feel strongly about that we definitely need to do as well.
So for those people or organizations that have referred victims to you, are they like service providers or just like a local business in the community?
You know, a lot of it's the community. We're trying to partner with other service providers and trafficking, we do get some referrals. The approach that we're taking, you know, we're a law enforcement agency, and obviously our job is to investigate crimes. But in human trafficking, it's a little bit of a paradigm shift for our detectives because we're very victim-centered. And when we receive a report of a traffic victim, our first and foremost goal is to get that victim to safety and to provide the resources and get them in touch with the resources they need to be safe. Obviously, being law enforcement, we want to work as an enforcement standpoint as well and to hold people accountable. But the main thing, the most important thing for us is to get that victim to safety. Secondary then is to hold the offenders criminally accountable as well. So most of our referrals come from the community, but we're hoping in that developing more of a relationship with other partners in trafficking, and we will start to see more referrals that way as well.
Okay. And then also, right now the Anoka County Sheriff's Office is organizing a kind of training for the officers. Can you shed light on that, please?
Yes, we've started as part of creating our task force. We've actually, part of that is going to be training the street level officers. The members of our task force are going to be mainly investigators and detectives. But a lot of what we're trying to do is educate the patrol officers who are out there on the street to recognize signs when there may be trafficking present. When they're on a call, maybe they're on an unrelated call, whether it's at a business or at somebody's house. What are the things they should watch for to recognize that, you know, the person that I'm dealing with may be a trafficking victim, or the person that I'm dealing with may be an offender who is victimizing somebody else. So they can recognize those signs and start and contact us, the investigators, to then start an investigation.
So can you give the public the tips to look out for?
There's a lot. One of the biggest things is somebody who's being controlled by somebody else. Most of the trafficking offenses that we see are sex trafficking or labor trafficking. And labor trafficking a lot of time comes into play when we have a business where the employees are being trafficked, and a lot of times they're being trafficked around the country. They're brought into the country and their passports are taken, and we've had businesses that where we've investigated where there's actually been living quarters in the back of the business. And it's very apparent when you walk into the business that the people who are working there do not have, that they are being oppressed, that they have no control and no say in what they're doing. And those things, in a labor trafficking standpoint, we're really looking at control issues, and also in sex trafficking as well. In sex trafficking, we see, and this is not specific to adult females. We see juveniles that are trafficked, and we see adult males that are trafficked as well. And in sex trafficking, a lot of that comes through us from referrals when we have runaways. We had our last count in Anoka County, for instance, in January alone, we counted 100. I don't recall if it was 130 or 150 homeless youth. And this is in January in Anoka County, which is kind of a suburban county.
Yes.
And this is the coldest month of the year. And a lot of the times when we see juveniles that are homeless and that are runaways, within 48 hours, they are approached by somebody who whether it's a more in the street terms, a pimp, you know, and gets them, manipulates them, and coerces them into that lifestyle. And from our standpoint, when we're working with victims of sex trafficking, they are a victim foremost. We are trying to put an end to the person who's controlling them, okay? And that's, for many years, law enforcement, when they worked, you know, adult prostitution cases, they were making arrests on the prostitutes. In our minds, those are victims. And we are trying to treat that accordingly and treat them as victims. And so that's been a little bit of a paradigm shift, but it's important if we're going to stop them being victimized, that we have to change our way of thinking as well. And so that's been, we have a lot of very dedicated people in our office set up, and it's, like I said, our first and foremost goal is to stop the trafficking and get them help and get them into a position of safety.
Yes.
And then secondary, if we can do something criminally, great, because there are cases where we can't, and we recognize that.
Yes.
But if we can help this person get them out of that situation and put them in touch with the resources and get them the services that they need, that we've won in our mind. So.
And for, like, it's easy to bust like a business place, but what about those victims that are just individual victims in different homes? Yes.
That's another thing where the public, when we see people who maybe are not free to leave a home, who are staying there long hours, whether it's a servant situation in the home, or somebody, somebody might have a nanny, but this person is not being compensated for, with standard wages. They're being forced to work long hours. Maybe they even live in the home, and they're not being treated. They're in essence indentured servants or slaves, and it's so that's one of the things that if you see someone, maybe a neighbor, that you see this situation doesn't seem right, this person doesn't seem to have any freedoms, and that's where we talked earlier about trying to train our officers. What are some things they should be looking for when they're going into a call, or when they're, maybe it's unrelated, maybe they get called to a house on a domestic dispute, or even on a barking dog or something, where they have to go deal with people, and they recognize those signs of control, and so that when they see that, they can start, what are the questions they should be asking, and then that will trigger more of a response from the investigators. So, and if members of the public see this, they can contact their local law enforcement. In Anoka County, the Sheriff's Office Criminal Investigations Division, we have 3 detectives in our investigations division that are exclusively getting training in this right now, that have gotten training in it and are continuing to get more advanced training. So when we receive a referral from someone, they know the things they have to do as well. So.
Okay. So are you working in partnership with like the Department of Homeland Security's campaign?
We are, yep. We are working with the Department of Homeland Security. We've also partnered with the Jail Human Trafficking Task Force, which is based out of the St. Paul Police Department as well. We meet with them bi-weekly, and we do a lot of the cases that we work. We actually work in conjunction with them as well. And they will come in, if we have a case, when we have more complex cases, we will dedicate our detectives to working those cases. But these cases a lot of times involve hundreds and hundreds of labor hours where we all work together and to combat the case and to work on the case. When you have a case that involves 1,000 hours of work, that's a lot for one person to take on, particularly because time is of the essence. So we'll pull in people from other agencies, and then when they have a case, they will pull in our resources. And this just doesn't go with local agencies in Anoka County. We work with law enforcement across the country on this as well, everywhere. We work pretty regularly with Las Vegas, Texas. Throughout the Midwest, we've worked extensively with Fargo, down in the Quad Cities area. Last week we had a case, it was in Minnesota, but the victims were from Rochester, and it was crimes that occurred in Anoka County. They were then transported up to Alexandria. So we had law enforcement from all over in Anoka County that was working on this one case.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time.
It was my pleasure.
Really appreciating all this.
Thank you for your show and what you're doing as well to raise awareness.
Thank you.
Present show. Oh, oh, oh. oh.
Hello viewers at home, welcome back. This is Imprisoned Show Sale and Fundraiser today at the Heritage Park in Minneapolis. Earlier on we saw the commander from Anoka County Sheriff, and now you have the opportunity to meet the professor that made this set happen for us. She is Professor Abimbola Asojo. Professor, welcome.
Thank you so much
for coming today.
I'm delighted to be here.
Thanks for this wonderful set you have here for us. Without you, I don't know how I would have been able to get this, because it cost some money, and not only did your students design the set, but you were also able to get some money to bring it to life. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, I'm really excited that it all worked out perfectly. You know, like you all know, Bukola was braiding my hair in the shop one day, and I was watching the Imprisoned show, and I wasn't too pleased with the way the set looked. And I said to her, you know, we've got to do something about your set and, you know, make it look professional and aesthetically pleasing. So what we did was we decided to have it as a studio project in the lighting class. And I was fortunate to come across Fairchild Books, who sponsors a grant for topical issues. And, you know, we applied to them to fund the set designed by the students. So that's the story of the set. So that's exciting. It's really nice to be in the set today and talking to you.
Yes.
Yeah, and now at least we know when you have your show, it's going to look really aesthetically pleasing and really nice. So I'm also very thankful for my students. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here today. 25 of them. We had 8 proposals, and several of them are featured in this design solution.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is about the community and an issue that affects not only one community, but all communities around the world. So would you say that while your students were designing this set, they were able to take, you know, some information with them about human trafficking, or have they been able to really learn about it? Was it their first time hearing about human trafficking?
I think for some of them, you know, they've heard about it, but a few people think it's something that happens like miles and, you know, far away. So I think they really related to the topic after they did the design, because they had to do some research. And you also came to class and you saw their projects and you gave them feedback.
Yes.
I think through their research on the topic, they got more inspired, and I mean, it's a social responsibility issue. I feel like, you know, design students need to be engaged with what's going on in the community and not just focus on, you know, designing spaces for the rich alone, but, you know, it's important for us to be engaged with topics that are timely and are going on in the community. So I think, you know, they really left the project learning more about human trafficking and issues that deal with, you know.
And how has this affected the design college at the U of M?
You know, everyone is excited about it. And, you know, there's stories on the website, on our Facebook page, you know, promoting your course as well. And the interesting thing is, I also want to thank Cheryl Jorgensen, who really helped ordered a lot of the products. The other day she told me, you know, she was really impressed, and every time now she's reading, she pays more attention to issues about trafficking. So I think it's going to happen, you know, to my students as well. You know, when you get to work on a project and you learn more about the issues, you'll be more sensitive the next time you hear something about that, and you'll be like, oh, okay, you know, and you want to make a change and make a difference. Yeah.
So do you have like any future projects that will be in line with human trafficking or something similar with your upcoming students next fall?
Right now, I don't have any specific projects in mind, but as a philosophy of mine with my studio projects and the projects I engage my students in is to always look for an issue that relates to the community, something to make them more socially responsible, or, so we deal with topics like that. So maybe in the future, we might find another project in the north side or something that deals with the community and work on. Yeah, so I always try to have a community-based project or a project that focuses on a different global community in class.
So definitely, Imprisoned show set is not the first project you have done with your students.
No.
Can you tell us how many you've done?
Wow, that's hard to count them. Well, a couple of years ago, we did a project on affordable housing in Lagos, Nigeria, and Cape Town, South Africa. And the project came about from myself and an anthropologist from OU, University of Bukola, while I was there. We got a grant, and we went to Lagos, and we studied slums like Agege, Makoko, and Ilaje Bariga, which I'm sure you probably are aware of.
Yes.
And then we also went together to South Africa, to Kayanicha and Brown's Farm, and we studied the slums and squatters. We interviewed the residents, and we interviewed from an anthropological and an architectural perspective, and we came back with our findings, and then we gave the students the project to design some spaces for those communities. So projects like that are the things we engage in.
Like those projects look like they will take more, so were you able to get some grants to actually bring those to life?
We haven't brought those to life. Yeah, they are really expensive. Design community, sometimes it's difficult to get a lot of funding, Yeah, for projects that are huge scale, But maybe in the future, we might be able to get some money to fund opportunities like that. Yeah.
So, now what can you say, or how do you feel about, this whole project where there was funding to bring it to life?
Oh, I'm really pleased about that, because the dream of any designer or interior designer or an architect is to, not just visualize it on paper, but to visualize it and bring it to life. So one thing I think my students take away from this is also the fact that they visualized it on paper, created renderings, and now it's reality. So it's something good they can always put in their portfolios and talk about how they took it. And they were also able to work within a budget, because budget is also a challenge for a lot of designers. We dream big dreams, have a lot of fancy ideas, but then when it comes to making it, money is really important. So this was nice, because this was accomplished within a $1,000 budget.
Thank you so
So
much.
we're excited about that.
We are too. We are so grateful, because for me, the rock is my dream rock, to have a show that says Imprisoned show on the rock, on the set, like I see on some of the national TV shows. And the props and the chairs we have, the chair they got for me is very comfortable compared to the chairs I have been using at the studio. So I am really, really so grateful.
Thank you so much.
I would like to say a big thank you to you on behalf of, the community, victims of human trafficking and survivors. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, this is for Wendy
We want to give a
Williams.
shout out to Wendy
Williams, because we always copy her a lot. So, Wendy, how
How
you
you doing? And the students really got a lot of inspiration from your
Yes.
design too.
How you doing?
Imprisoned show.
each time we add something on, once we identify something that could be an issue that could be discussed on the show, we add it on. And another one that we will be adding on is recipes, especially for victims who are in the United States. For example, if you're an immigrant in the US, one shock you're going to have is the food. And for those who are victims of human trafficking or domestic abuse, when they get to the shelter, they don't really have access to the food they are familiar with. And most of the shelters too don't even know how to cook those kind of food. So we are trying to introduce a recipe segment where shelters can learn how to cook, different kinds of food from all across the world. It's helpful to the women and also to the shelter in terms of, boosting the resume of their kitchen staff to becoming international chefs.
Do you know what, like, the demographic of your viewers?
Oh, worldwide.
Worldwide?
Yes, because human trafficking is an issue that affects everybody across the world, and that is why we just redesigned the logo with the globe, because we are trying to let everyone know that it concerns them. We can't just turn our side and say, oh, it happens only in those countries or in those neighborhoods, but not us. Everybody is involved in it. So, and we are trying to reach everyone across the world.
And is there a certain kind of like feeling that you want to get across to your show? Like a certain atmosphere?
Oh yes, the atmosphere is most of all love. To show love to your neighbors. For people to always look beneath the surface. To not think, oh, because I am safe, I don't care about what happens to the next person. You never know. Even in your school or in your class, there might be a victim there. And most of the time, what we see is domestic abuse. And when you dig deeper, we find human trafficking.
Were you going to finish up about, did you have something more to say about atmosphere?
Yes, just to, let us start thinking about other people and let us begin not to look at human trafficking as an issue that is very technical. We can bring it down to everybody's level. My goal is to portray it in a way that everybody can understand. If we have been reading the federal government reports, they've always been very technical, and it's hard for the layman to understand. My goal is to bring it down to everybody's level, where we can see it and recognize right away that that could be human trafficking. For example, because I put my face to my story, there are many of my customers that have come to me for help. And there are many who has heard somebody tell a story, and they'll be like, oh, that story is sounding similar to Bukola's story. Let's call Bukola and find out. And when they call me to find out, I refer them for help. When they do more interview, they find out that, they are victims of human trafficking and they really need help. So we just need to, open our eyes more, and instead of pushing it away, it's a negative story, but we can turn that negativity to positivity, and in the end we will be preventing it. There is less money spent when we are trying to prevent something. What we need to be extra sensitive to is, for example, you don't see it on somebody's forehead that, oh, I'm a victim of human trafficking, or I'm a victim of domestic abuse. But show love in your daily activity. Show that you care about somebody. And mind you, victims will not just tell you, oh, I'm a victim of human trafficking. No. But the more you show love and somebody says that, he or she is building confidence in you, you will be surprised the day the person will open up to you. In my case, the public health nurse who helped me was working with me for over 1 year before I spoke to her. So you could imagine. And why did I choose to speak to her? Because she had always told me that, she was there for me. And if I called her, she would tell me, don't worry, just trust me. I won't share your story with anybody. If there is anything, let me know. And she was just doing her job. And when the time came to jump from the frying pan into the fire, that was the person that I called. We want a mobile set. Actually, that was what I told your professor. A set where we don't have to be limited to in here. We can also use it outside. So we want something that it's easy to shut down and set up. Plus, I don't have a truck, so it's going to be going in my little car. So something that can, fit in a small space.
And you do have a budget. It's $1,000 for if you notice, for the furniture. That doesn't include the lighting or the
yes, because those
production
are expensive.
Because those are
Yes, we want like a backdrop. I was saying to my producer that I saw something on TV yesterday, and I tried to take the picture with my phone, but of course I wasn't fast enough. I thought that would be really nice to have. It looks light. It doesn't feel like it will take a lot of space, and it will be easy to set up just behind. So when people, let's say the show already started at 8 o'clock and somebody just tune in at 8:15, they will know what show is going on. And then for the table, I like something small. The color is blue because the federal government rolled out, they started with blue hearts. Now they said there's no heart, it's blue. So now they have a blue campaign against human trafficking. And unfortunately, when you look out there, there is a ribbon for cancer, there is a ribbon for domestic abuse, there is a ribbon for sexual assault, but there is no ribbon for human trafficking. But luckily, I found a place where they have all these ribbons and they had blue. So I told them, please make me some blue ribbons for human trafficking. And please, you have all different, there are even courses for animals. So I said, can you add the blue and say it's for human trafficking? So when they rolled out the campaign, because I had published a book about my story, the book, when it first came out, was in orange color. And when I heard about the blue campaign, I changed the color of my book to blue so that, it aligns with the cause. And that's why Imprisoned Show 2 is blue.
Yes.
I just know that sometimes after production and I'm watching the video, it looks dark. When a show is going on, my job is just to be here and be talking like a chatterbox. Then I have people who are very skilled that will be in there to make sure that whatever I'm doing here will show on TV. So those are the people also that work on the lights and set the light for us.
What is your vision for something you'll be filming outside?
Outside, okay, if we are filming outside where we have the
We only need the space. As well as outside. Yeah, yeah.
20 feet?
Yeah.
20 feet.
What do you got?
20 by 20.
20 by 20?
You're welcome. Thank you.
I've made a good use. I think the studio manager wants to show us the mobile light. Yes, he wants to show us the mobile light. So. Does he have that? Give us a plan of the light. Yes, yes. We saw it. So I'm kind of feeling the local.
You have worldwide viewers and you want an atmosphere that shows love and support and portrays human trafficking in a non-technical way, making it more understandable for people.
We picked out a slip cover for the chairs, which have kind of a unique print to it and incorporate the blue from your logo. And it's just a bold statement pattern to kind of add something with it so you have like a plain background, just to kind of give it a little pop.
The kind of larger table that kind of invites people into the space when you're on the show. That's what we kind of saw when we were watching the shows that we saw the last episode that had the larger table that you both sat at. We felt like it was the most comfortable and kind of most relatable for everyone.
We need a lot of room, but the effect will still make it seem very spacious and large. And we were wanting to provide you with even up to 4 chairs. And it also adds kind of a nice homey touch to the set. Then you also have surface space that way you can put mugs or coffee or glass of water or whatever you might need. And then also the table's lightweight because again, if you're going to be transporting this stuff, then the ease of that is obviously important. Kind of jazz it up, but also have it serve a purpose. And one little detail that you might not think about, and that way.
We would pick all the pieces. We really wanted them to encompass a lot of culture and many cultures, like your show encompasses. A rug and an easel for some of your signage. I'll go over in greater detail on the specification list.
We didn't change that at all, just because of the time management issues of taking down and setting up when you're in
Different priorities.
Okay.
We started off by doing a couple different phone interviews. We have a couple connection sites to Bethany and Ellen, so I'll have you pick up. If you, for example, were surrounded in white clothing with a white background. More than 6 years experience in theatrical lighting, and then he currently works as an AV technician for Matching Enterprises in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area. And he had a little bit more experience. Another angle, I guess, of the furniture.
Plus the green screen and the easel holder, and also the software that goes along. So during editing, it would be really quick if you wanted to run up your logo on the background. You have to use that.
So this is just a perspective.
In the kit, it's included in the budget already, which is super cool that you don't have to. We went with the initial design and we took it apart and what we wanted to change, and then we did
For your next budget.
this is another chair we looked into.
The second set for our perspective and floor plan, but just just look at it. Use a neutral gray background to prevent anyone from blending into the background. And we just wanted a homey feel created through the comfortable design of the furniture that we chose.
So this is a chair which is made of all wood. Plain.
Alright, so some of the accessories that we found. This is a floor base and it's not huge. It only weighs.
So we went with a brand that the company you guys are with now actually exists called Gary. And we went with the SoftBank series because it was
Furniture for the set. Yeah, so first, the easel on the left here, we found is super flexible. I mean, you guys have now cameras on this side of the room, and then the setup with your custom carpet, your chairs, the two desk chairs, one of the tables that you want to put next to you, and then the easel behind with the visage side. And even if you only did have one guest, you could still show your second chair. It's pretty. And then you can see the rug nice and clearly, and whatever you choose to put on the easel too would be nice. Easy visuals for that.
I want to thank every one of you. You all did great jobs. I saw hard work from all the presentations, and I'm so grateful. Now it's hard to make a choice. Even though some ideas pop more than others, I think I will be picking a little bit from everybody. So everybody is a winner. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Thank you for your efforts, and it's really God bless you.
Said they're taking off these kids, oh why are they just doing this? I can't believe that they would ever take all the kids. Don't take all the kids, Lord, we have to just live on this earth, oh peaceful. Quit helping out with the evil things of this whole life. Why are you just taking our kids? I just don't know why you keep on doing what's wrong. I don't know why you keep on taking our kids away. We got a problem going on in this world. It isn't right. I work my 9 to 5, and on the other side of the world, they're just taking all our kids, man. They took all our kids. They took all our kids today, oh yeah. They took all our kids. They took all our kids today, oh yeah. Can you believe what's going on in this whole wide world? What's going on? Oh, I just wanna say, I know what you're doing with your evil ways. You took all the kids in the whole wide world. You took all the kids in the whole wide world and turned them into monsters and just demons 'cause of their own evil ways. Don't take our kids. They're just taking all our kids, man. They took all our kids. They took all our kids today, oh yeah. They took all our kids. They took all our kids today, oh yeah. Can you believe what's going on in this whole wide world? What's going on? Oh, I just wanna say, I know what you're doing with your evil ways. You took all the kids in the whole wide world. You took all the kids in the whole wide world and turned them into monsters and just demons 'cause of their own evil ways. Don't take our kids. prison show is what I know. A prison show is what I know. A prison show is how we roll up and down the tracks into your TVs. Oh, oh, oh. This is about all the little boys and girls all around the whole wide world. Yeah, Imprisoned show is just coming to your TVs. Oh, give you what I got, what you need. Yeah, yeah. Imprisoned show is what I know. Been up and down, I'm so tired of everything. Prison show is what I know. They bring in all these boys and girls all around the whole wide world. Prison show is what I know, but here we go. Yeah, yeah, whoa. Prison show is what I know. They took me from my home. I can't get back to my family. I wanna hold just to get her back. Oh, I can't do this no more. It's the Imprisoned prison show. Whoa, I've been lost, but now I'm found. I heard the sound of glory from my Father God. It's an Imprisoned show. Oh, oh, oh.
We light this candle in honor of victims who have lost their lives as a result of human trafficking, and we hope that their soul rests in perfect peace.
So we're talking about something that is of global scale. So we have people from the United States who have significant demand for hearts, kidneys, lungs, livers. We have people from Israel who express the same demands, people in Germany and England, and they go all over the place. Important to distinguish the difference between the demand for human body parts, such as organs, versus the demand for human body parts such as tissues, heart valves, tendons for knees, and things such as that, even foreskin from babies. Huge huge cosmetic demand. So cosmetic companies and also companies that process human tissues to do any number of things with those tissues, but that end up bringing some benefit for us, only we never really know about it. So the next time a person goes in for a knee operation and they're told which kind of bone do you want, human bone or pig bone, well, they just think, well, there was some legitimate process by which this bone was obtained. But what we know is that there are lots of gaps in the system. He pillaged body parts from funeral homes in the Bronx, in Harlem, in Pennsylvania, and then sold them all over the place. Falsified records, and his agreements generally were, I pay you $1,000 to get access to one corpse, and $1,000 per corpse. And in exchange for that $1,000, I get access to that body part late at night or whatever. They would stuff plumbing piping back into the bodies after pillaging the bodies of bones so that it wouldn't be deflated, so that when the
Yes.
relatives came for the funeral, it would look as if the bodies were whole. What relatives did not know is that their deceased loved ones had been pillaged for parts. About 5 years ago, there was a person arrested, euphemistically called Dr. Death, who was responsible, said to have profited perhaps somewhere in the millions on human trafficking. You know, to get a kidney on the black market, one ends up spending somewhere between $150,000 to $250,000. The person who ultimately is the vendor of that organ receives maybe $1,000, maybe $3,000. Supposedly, Isaac Rosenbaum's victims, if you were, received about $10,000. So you see that huge gap.
Yes.
So who's making money in that in between? Sometimes it's people who call themselves transplant coordinators, who are really body part brokers. They make a lion's share, and then they build in luxury systems that are associated with this. So it's not all that, you know, there's the person who needs the organ pays $150,000.
They took me from my home when I was just so young. I don't know who I am. I'm supposed to be your son. All they do is just treat me so bad. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I wanna live my life and live it forever, but they keep on bringing me back to this place. They trafficking me. They trafficking me all around this world. Wanted to talk to God today to say, help me get up out of this place you made. I can't believe you put me in this situation, but I know you can move mountains for me. Oh, this a house that I live my whole life. I don't don't wanna be here no more. They keep on just trafficking me and just don't wanna walk out the door. Help me get up out of this place. I just don't wanna live in this house no more. Trafficking me around the whole wide world. I feel like I'm a slave in this modern time. It's 2013. I just don't know how this world could be this way anymore. They're just trafficking little boys and girls all around the whole wide world, yeah. Just trying to tell a story to you now about my whole life and how they took me from my home and put me